So we'll get things started in the back of the room to the left.
Hey, Sean, Mark Larson, Time Warner Cable News, Syracuse. Good to see you again. Can you talk a little bit about second go-around here in the ACC and how much more comfortable you guys are? You've been to some new places now. You've been to the Carolinas. You have a better feel for this league. How much better feel do you have?
Well, it's definitely more familiarity, more than anything. Just to know that you know the personnel each team has, you know the way they like to play. Are they more physical team? They fast team? There's no more like second guessing like last year. Like maybe take a couple series to figure out how this defense plays and all that types of things. So it's gonna be a little bit more like familiar. Just be able to go in there and no real surprises. We play the same division and then one crossover game. That'll be a little bit different, but then we have Pitt again as we will every year. So it's just nice to see these same teams. They'll be a little more, I think, a little bit more easier this year in terms of just understanding who we're playing instead of just kind of going to the game a little unsure.
Sean will go right here.
Sean Danstore, Broadcast Media. The offensive line for Syracuse changed a little bit from last season to this season. You've been on the left side, you've been on the right side. What can you say about how things are kind of shaking out and how you see this offensive line after the spring?
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is after this season, I was really impressed with how currently our center, John Miller, he lost a lot of weight and he got stronger and faster. And that really translated onto the field. So he kind of brought an aspect to this offensive line that I didn't really foresee coming into this, after last season, coming into like who would this offensive line be, losing Mackey. And he really did a great job, and he kind of threw a wild card in there that I didn't really see coming. So with him doing that good and having the four other guys back, and then we also have Amari Palmer who can play who can play at basically anywhere. He's a very good football player, as well as Michael Lasker, who's competing with Ivan Foy at the right tackle position. We have a great depth that we didn't necessarily have last year, with people being able ready to play, and it's exciting.
Sean, right over here.
Bob Halliday from Raleigh. Sean, Terrell Hunt took custody of the quarterback position about mid-year, and you guys began to get better week after week after that. Given the fact that most ACC teams are looking at new quarterbacks, what kind of comfort level do you have from knowing that you've identified your guy? Well,
it's huge because having Ryan Nassib for so long and how great of a quarterback he was, he did a lot of things that like a bunch of other quarterbacks don't do, and then to go from him to a new quarterback last year, it was a little bit of a learning curve. But what Terrell did a great job of, he really when he got in there, he demanded respect. And that was in spring ball of last year. And then then Drew came in, and then once Terrell got the shot at it again, he just demanded respect like he never left. And we got used to him, but at the same time, we got used to him as the year went on, but he really did a great job. And to have him back and not have to go through that learning curve again it's a big advantage for us.
We're going to go to the back of the room first, Sean, then we'll come back down here.
Hi, Sean. Stephen Fonte, ABC in Syracuse. You guys have the ultimate measuring stick in the division, defending national champs, Florida State. You saw them last year. Could you talk a little bit about the gap between Florida State and Syracuse? How wide is that gap, and how long do you think it'll take to kind of close that gap?
Well, to be kind of blunt and obvious, they're the national champs for a reason. Like, there's not one team that was better than them last year. So the gap is significant. They are basically NFL players across the board at every position. So yeah, they're ahead, and I feel the thing Syracuse has to overcome, and I've said this multiple times today, is that there is this persona or this image from the mid-2000s that's still kind of hanging around when we were like a 1-11 team, or like won 3 games, 4 games. And that kind of, I think it's still, that view is still hanging around, even though we've won 3 bowl games in the last 4 years. It's still, people sometimes when they hear Syracuse, they think of that, and I think recruits think of that too, because they were growing up in that age, that time of when Syracuse was when they were starting to get introduced to football. Syracuse was a 2-10 team. So it's about us to keep putting seasons back to back to back of winning bowl games, of having winning records, of improving and getting better. That's going to eventually bring more guys in. keep working hard like we always have, bring more guys in, eventually try to slowly close that gap. And I think that's the biggest issue Syracuse really does face, is that kind of image from the rest of the nation, that just kind of like everybody keeps thinking back to those years, but it's been a while. But I understand why they think that way. But that's really what we have to keep winning, and hopefully in years to come, that gap slowly closes.
2 more questions, one left, one right. We'll start to the left.
Sean, Don Munson from Clemson. This is a league that's very deep in defensive end. At Clemson, though, they've got a first-team All-American returning, which is an unusual thing in today's game. Can you comment just a little bit on the game of Vic Beasley and what you see, from him on the field, and also when you're looking at him on film?
Sure. When the first thing I noticed when I watched film on him was he's on his 3rd or 4th step when everybody else is on their first. Like the way his I noticed the way his legs move is with such speed, but also with such velocity. That's truly the first thing I noticed on film. He's on his 3rd step is when everybody else is on their first. So that brings, and then like that game, I was getting more of my get off was faster than it was all season, because it had to be, because no one else, because an offensive lineman really is, our sets are really dictated on who we're playing. So if someone's a little slower, I'm not going to go set real fast, because that means I'll pass them up. And when someone's going extremely fast, I got to get out really fast. And he brings also a rush that's not just purely speed or not just purely power. It's truly a multiple dimension rush. He can speed rush you, or he can bull rush you. And for him being 240 pounds, he's probably the strongest 240-pound person I've ever had to block. So I think he's a genetic gift, and he's a very good athlete, and I'd say he's the best defensive end, pass rushing defensive end, or run blocking for that. Run stopping. I think he's one of the best defensive end in college football, easily.
And you may have one of the best quotes of the day, by the way. Genetic gift. Last question right here.
Sean, it's a 2-parter. First, going back to changing the climate, what has Scott Schaefer done to change the climate for even in the locker room with you guys? And secondly, going through your first spring with offensive line coach Joe Adams. So first with Schaefer and then with Joe Adams.
I feel Coach Schaefer really wants us to take control of our own team, rather than in the past where everybody knew this was Coach Marone's team. Like he run the ship every way, shape, or form. It was his team. Coach Schaefer's taking a little different approach. He wants us to take a little bit more ownership in what happens, and us police our own So whether it comes to people missing class or whatever, us to police it and us to hold our players accountable rather than the coaches, just the coaches holding us accountable. And so I would feel that's the one thing Coach Schaefer's trying to bring to the table more. And Coach Adam, he's done a great job for making the transition between his last job and this one. He's done. He's also, like I said earlier about Terrell demanding respect, Coach Adams demanding respect since he's gotten here, and he's done. And listening to him talk about football, then you start to respect him, because you understand he knows what he's saying, even though he's been a defensive coach for a while. So he does bring an aspect of the game that you want to learn from. And the thing I got to see 3 different line coaches in 3 seasons. I had Greg Adkins for my first 3 years here. Then last year I had Pat Perlis, and this year I have Joe Adam. So you get to see all different types of coaching philosophies and how they view certain technique things, so I can kind of pick and choose from each one, which one's helped my game the best, and then I can apply, say, okay, I like something from Coach Adkins, I like something from Coach Perlis, and I like something from Coach Adam, and I can morph it, and it's just to keep getting exposed to things like that, and his type of coaching really just helps you become an overall better player.